Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
Coming up on today's show, we'll look at how Vladimir Putin's war is fueling a surprising shipbuilding boom in Scotland, thanks to a massive new deal with Norway. Then we'll dive into the video game movie Gold Rush, as films like the Super Mario Brothers movie and shows like Fallout rewrite the rules of Hollywood. After that, a look at the markets, where a Google antitrust ruling, a huge AI deal for Broadcom, and a proposed $1 trillion plan for Elon Musk are all making waves. We'll also cover Donald Trump's threat to use trade law to fight the EU over billions in tech fines. And finally, we'll ask why Roblox is launching a TikTok-style feed right as it faces a major lawsuit over child safety. The most unexpected news in the industrial world today has to be this. Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine is fueling a massive boom in Scotland. The context here is crucial. The UK's Ministry of Defence was already spending over £2 billion a year in Scotland, supporting more than 12,000 jobs. But now, with the war, that investment is going into overdrive. For years, Scotland's legendary naval shipyards on the Clyde were on the brink of collapse. The era of the peace dividend nearly saw them shut down for good. That is all changing fast. By the end of this decade, the Royal Navy is set to receive as many as 7 new warships from revived Scottish yards. But the jaw-dropping number, the one that shows the sheer scale of this turnaround, comes from Norway. They just confirmed plans to buy at least 5 Scottish-built Type 26 warships, a deal worth a staggering £10 billion. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer to this idea of a Scottish-built warship. While it's assembled on the Clyde, its critical components come from all over the world. We're talking about a global supply chain. The gas turbines from Rolls-Royce in the UK, yes, but also sewage treatment plants from a company in Spain and anchor handling equipment from Italy. This international collaboration creates an incredible vessel, but it also highlights a potential vulnerability to global supply chain shocks. So, what makes a Type 26 warship worth billions? At its core, it's more of a floating network supercomputer than just a steel hull. At its heart is a combat management system that fuses data from dozens of sources, giving the crew godlike situational awareness. Its sensor suite includes an advanced 3D search radar and a towed sonar array designed specifically for hunting the quietest enemy submarines. This is all driven by a hybrid propulsion system that can run almost silently on its diesel-electric generators, making it incredibly stealthy. The ship's power is defined as much by its upgradable software as by its engines, which also opens up a whole new world of cybersecurity risks that navies have to defend against. So what's going on? Geopolitical shifts are forcing Europe to rearm. The UK's own weapon stockpiles are low after sending supplies to Ukraine, and its military readiness has been in doubt. The government is now pouring money into defence, and shipbuilding is at the centre of it. And if you think this is just about old-school manufacturing, you're wrong. This new flood of investment is transforming the shipyards. We're talking automated welding that works in a fraction of the time and robotic painters that are replacing entire teams, allowing ships to be built faster and more efficiently than ever before. But this technological leap has a very human side. There's a real concern that the heritage skills of welders and painters passed down for generations could be lost. So companies like BAE Systems are now running advanced apprenticeship programs, trying to retrain these traditional artisans to manage and operate the new automated systems, bridging the gap between the old and the new. This tech leap means that, for the first time in years, British naval shipbuilding can compete on the global export market. The ripple effect goes even deeper. The defence boom is boosting Scotland's high-tech sectors, from companies making parts for submarines and missiles to its successful space cluster building small satellites. Military planners are even looking to adapt local expertise in gaming technology and artificial intelligence for modern warfare, developing drones and counter-drone measures based on the hard lessons being learnt right now in Ukraine. To give you a concrete example, the UK's Ministry of Defence recently invested £20 million in a London-based company that uses AI and spatial computing, the same kind of tech that powers massive online video games, to build a synthetic wargaming platform. This allows them to simulate incredibly complex battlefield scenarios for training, directly using innovations from the civilian tech world. It's a stark picture of our new reality. A conflict thousands of miles away is reshaping an entire nation's economy, turning geopolitical crisis into an unprecedented industrial windfall. All of this leads to a profound question. When a region's economy becomes this dependent on defense contracts fueled by global conflict, does it create an incentive for industry and political leaders to favor sustained international tension? It's the tough ethical side of this industrial boom where economic stability for thousands of people becomes tied to a world that remains on edge. We were just talking about the fusion of military hardware and advanced software. Well, that same fusion of tech and content is also creating a gold rush in a completely different industry, Hollywood. For decades, video game movies were a punchline, notorious for being creative misfires, but now they're becoming the industry's next goldmine. The Super Mario Bros. Movie didn't just succeed, it shattered records, pulling in over $1.3 billion globally. It's the first and only film of its kind to ever hit that number. And it's not alone. The Sonic the Hedgehog franchise is now rocketed past $1 billion at the global box office. The situation presents a fascinating duality. On one side, you have audiences who love these films, while on the other, critics are often left unimpressed. Take the Super Mario Bros. Movie, for example. It has a 98% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, but only 54% from critics. We saw the same thing with the Uncharted movie, which got a 90% from audiences, but just 39% from critics. You know, this signals a massive power shift. Audiences are rewarding faithfulness to the games they love, regardless of what traditional reviews say. This is a massive turnaround. Between 1993 and 2018, only 3 video game movies managed to break $100 million domestically. The original 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie, it was a notorious flop. So what changed? According to one analyst, the recent Minecraft movie was so successful, it single-handedly saved the 2025 box office from looking, quote, honestly, pretty dismal. For the studios, this is about more than just ticket sales. It's a concept some are calling the transmedia flywheel. A hit show or movie doesn't just make money at the box office, it sends people rushing back to the games. After the Fallout TV series premiered, it was viewed by over 65 million people, and sales of the game Fallout 4 skyrocketed by nearly 7,500% in Europe. Fallout 76 had its best weekend ever, and the results are staggering because it creates a two-way value stream, making these properties a much safer and more profitable bet for studios. What really brought this to a head, though, was a complete fusion of filmmaking and game development technology. It's not just about better CG. Productions are now using the game's own engines, like Unreal Engine, for filming. Think of The Mandalorian. They used massive LED walls showing real-time digital backgrounds made in Unreal Engine. The recent Fallout series did the same, building virtual sets that allowed directors to make changes on the fly. This blurs the line between a movie set and a video game, making the worlds feel more authentic because they're literally built with the same digital DNA. The kids who grew up playing these games are now the ones making the movies. One producer admitted, quote, I don't think anyone in town really thought making a Sonic movie was a good idea, but their strategy was different. Treat the characters with real emotional arcs. So the thing is, this is the key. The game publishers are now acting as careful guardians of their own worlds. For the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Nintendo had Mario's creator, the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto, serve as a hands-on producer to protect the franchise's integrity. It's the same playbook used for HBO's The Last of Us, where the game's co-creator Neil Druckmann co-wrote and directed episodes to ensure it stayed true to its roots. They're no longer just selling the rights, they're co-piloting the creative process. Even Paramount's CEO, in announcing a new Call of Duty movie, said, as a lifelong fan of Call of Duty, this is truly a dream come true. Now, Hollywood is doubling down. Live-action films for The Legend of Zelda, Elden Ring, and Street Fighter are in the pipeline. This decision brings both opportunities and comes with inherent challenges. How do you adapt a game with 100 hours of lore like Elden Ring into a 2-hour movie, or turn a competitive fighting game like Street Fighter, which is all about action, into a story with a compelling plot? The playbook is still being written, and each genre requires a completely different approach to get it right. And here's the biggest bombshell. Analysts say studios are now looking at video games to fill the void left by the inconsistent performance of superhero movies. The genre, once seen as a joke, is now being positioned to take over as the new king of the box office. Speaking of financial blockbusters, let's turn from the box office to Wall Street, where the tech giants are having a wild week. In a stunning turn, the US government tried to take down Google in a landmark antitrust case and ended up sending its stock soaring. A judge's decision to hand Google a more limited punishment instead of breaking up the company caused Alphabet's stock to jump over 10% for the week. Now, get this. The judge, Amit Mehta, acknowledged that Google does have an illegal monopoly in search. But, and this is the key, he cited the rise of new generative AI tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity as potential disruptors. We previously analysed his language that generative AI is breaking barriers seemingly at light speed, and the latest development is the court effectively letting an existing monopoly point to future competition as a reason not to break it up. The ruling also gave a boost to Apple, preserving the multi-billion-dollar deal where Google pays to be the default search engine on iPhones. As we mentioned a few days ago, that default setting deal alone is worth more than $20 billion to Apple's services business. It wasn't a total win for Google, though. The judge also ordered the company to share certain search and interaction data with rivals to help them build AI chatbots. As we warned, watch for potential weaponized compliance here, data that technically meets the order but arrives delayed, incomplete, or stripped of context. This budding frenemy alliance is fascinating. Apple is reportedly looking to integrate Google's Gemini AI into its iPhones to supercharge Siri. For Apple, it's a strategic trade-off. They get world-class AI almost instantly, but they also become more dependent on their biggest rival, which raises all sorts of questions about data privacy and who really holds the power in this relationship. Regulators want a distance. This outcome might lock them together for years. This surge is part of a massive rally that added $420 billion to the market cap of just 8 US tech companies in a single week. Their combined value now stands at a staggering $21 trillion. To put that in perspective, these 8 companies now account for 36% of the entire S&P 500. A senior index analyst at S&P Dow Jones Indices said simply, there are no comparisons. In other words, the legal overhang lifted and the market wasted no time pricing in the new status quo. This level of market concentration is a big deal because it's actually higher than it was at the peak of the dot-com bubble in 2000. It means that the retirement funds and investment portfolios of millions of people are incredibly dependent on the performance of just a handful of companies. If this AI-driven rally were to falter, it could create a systemic risk for the entire economy, a scenario some are calling too big to fail for the tech sector. But the story doesn't stop there. Chipmaker Broadcom stock exploded 13% after its CEO revealed a new $10 billion contract with a major AI customer, widely reported to be OpenAI. While some stocks boomed, giants like Nvidia and Microsoft were actually sliding. The real story here is that Broadcom is fighting a different kind of AI chip war. While Nvidia sells powerful, all-purpose GPUs, Broadcom specializes in creating custom-designed chips called ASICs for specific clients like Google and now, reportedly, OpenAI. These custom chips are tailor-made for a company's unique AI models, often making them more efficient and cost-effective. It's a strategy that's creating a whole parallel hardware ecosystem, challenging Nvidia's dominance from a completely different angle. And then there's the final bombshell, Tesla, a stock that's been slumping this year, suddenly climbed 5%. The spark, the company announced it wants investors to approve a new pay plan for Elon Musk that could be worth up to almost $1 trillion. The company's chairwoman told CNBC the plan was designed to keep Musk motivated and focused. Believe it or not, this isn't just any pay plan. It comes after a Delaware court already threw out his previous $56 billion package, citing a flawed process. This new proposal is designed to tie Musk to Tesla for the next decade as it pivots from just EVs to robotaxis and humanoid robots. But the first payout won't even kick in until Tesla's market cap almost doubles to $2 trillion. The grand prize is tied to hitting an almost unimaginable $8.5 trillion valuation, setting a wild new precedent for corporate governance and what it takes to keep a so-called visionary CEO in the driver's seat. While the markets and courts are shaping the fate of big tech, the political arena is getting even more heated. President Donald Trump just threatened to launch a major trade investigation to, in his words, nullify what he calls discriminatory fines being levied by Europe against US tech firms. He's talking about using a powerful and controversial tool called Section 301 of the US Trade Act of 1974 Essentially, this law gives the president the authority to retaliate against any foreign trade practice he deems unfair or discriminatory, most often by imposing tariffs. The interesting part is that this isn't a new idea. The US has used Section 301 before, specifically to challenge digital taxes in countries like France, which it argued were designed to target American tech companies. We previously analysed those fights over digital services taxes. Today's twist is that Trump is aiming the same tool at EU competition penalties, not taxes, which would push this from a tax spat into the heart of antitrust cooperation with an ally. The risk, of course, is that using this tool against a major ally like the EU could ignite a much larger trade dispute. This all exploded just hours after the European Union slammed Google with a nearly $3.5 billion antitrust penalty over its advertising technology. A few days ago, we mentioned that Brussels has stepped back from the nuclear option of forcing a Google ad tech breakup and is prioritising behaviour changes instead. So yes, this is a headline-grabbing fine, but it still stops short of ordering divestitures, and with a US judge set to weigh remedies in the DOJ's ad tech case this month, Europe may be letting Washington take the lead on the harder structural decisions. So, what was Google actually accused of? The EU's investigation found that Google abused its dominant position by creating a massive conflict of interest. Google operates on both sides of the digital ad market. It represents both the buyers, advertisers, and the sellers, the publishers. The EU says Google used this unique position to favour its own ad exchange, AdX, in auctions, which harms rival ad exchanges, drives up costs for advertisers, and reduces revenue for the websites you visit every day. As we discussed a while back, critics say that owning the publisher server, the advertiser tools, and the auction in the middle lets Google tilt the table, and the fallout isn't abstract. Publishers often only see a fraction of each ad dollar, which directly affects newsrooms and the broader information ecosystem. And the timing here is everything. The threat was issued just one day after Trump hosted a dinner at the White House with top tech executives, where Google CEO Sundar Pichai personally thanked the president for a constructive dialogue on another antitrust case. This dinner isn't just a one-off meeting, though. It signals a major shift. We're seeing tech leaders doing one thing, while at the same time, a more nationalist administration is taking a path that could protect them. For years, Silicon Valley has leaned progressive, but now we're seeing a new, more transactional alliance forming. Tech leaders are increasingly concerned about tough regulations coming from Europe, like the Digital Markets Act, which specifically targets the business models of these giant American companies. So this alignment with a more nationalist, America First administration is seen by some as a strategic move to gain a powerful ally in their fight against foreign regulation. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. In a series of posts on Truth Social, Trump declared that Europe was, quote, effectively taking money that would otherwise go to American investments and jobs. This gets to the heart of a global standoff. The EU calls its strategy digital sovereignty, the idea that it has the right to enforce its own rules on tech platforms operating within its borders. The US, on the other hand, frames it as protecting American ingenuity and its national tech champions. Continuing our last discussion about growing transatlantic deference on the Google Adri tech remedies, Trump's move could test that fragile coordination, especially with the US remedies phase arriving this month. He argued this is just the latest move in a long-running saga, claiming Google has previously paid $13 billion in what he called false claims and charges. He then turned his attention to another tech giant, Apple. Trump specifically called out the EU for squeezing billions from Apple in back taxes and fines. He claimed the company has been fined $17 billion, a figure that appears to include a court ruling ordering Apple to pay over $14 billion in back taxes. And there's a crucial difference here that often gets missed. The fines against Google are antitrust penalties for anti-competitive behaviour. But the Apple case was about something different. Illegal state aid. The EU ruled that Ireland gave Apple a secret sweetheart tax deal that was not available to other companies, allowing it to pay an almost 0% tax rate. The EU ordered Apple to pay back those taxes, not as a fine, but to restore fair competition. So one is a penalty for breaking rules, the other is clawing back an unfair advantage. He didn't just call the penalties very unfair, he ended with a stunning demand declaring that Apple, quote, should get their money back. If a Section 301 probe actually kicks off, the fight won't just be about money, it will be about who gets to set the rules for big tech on either side of the Atlantic, which is exactly the chess match we've been tracking. From global giants like Google and Apple facing geopolitical fire, let's shift our focus to a platform wrestling with its own legal and ethical crisis. At the exact same time it's being sued over child safety, one of the world's biggest gaming platforms is rolling out a new short-form video feed. Roblox just announced Moments, a new feature that lets users 13 and older create and share video clips of their gameplay all inside the platform. The strategy here is pretty clear. This move is part of a massive trend we're seeing called the TikTokification of everything. The goal is to boost user engagement and keep you on the platform longer. By letting users share gameplay clips, Roblox is trying to capture some of that same magic that makes apps like TikTok so sticky, turning its platform from just a place to play into a place to also watch. And that's not all. They're also dropping new artificial intelligence tools that will allow users to generate advanced 3D objects, like futuristic monster trucks, for the games they build. Here's where it gets interesting because it could completely change the game for the millions of developers on Roblox. It lowers the barrier to entry, letting anyone create amazing things. However, it also raises huge questions about intellectual property. After all, under current US copyright law, purely AI-generated work can't be copyrighted because it lacks a human author. So who actually owns that futuristic monster truck? It's a legal minefield that could devalue the work of skilled human designers. But this massive push for new features comes as the company is facing a firestorm of legal challenges. Roblox is currently battling a number of lawsuits alleging that its design enables online predators to exploit underage victims. The pressure is mounting from the highest levels. Just last month, Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill sued Roblox, alleging the company fails to implement robust safety protocols to protect child users from predators. For its part, Roblox fired back, stating that any assertion it would intentionally put users at risk of exploitation is simply untrue. The company says all new video and AI-generated content will be moderated, but the challenge here is that moderating content that is itself generated by AI is a massive technical hurdle. We're talking about an unprecedented scale of new videos and 3D objects. Traditional moderation systems built for human-made content often can't keep up. It's like using a fishing net to catch sand. It forces companies to use AI to police other AI, creating a system where it's not clear who is liable when harmful content inevitably slips through, and it's expanding an age estimation program for all users. Here's the problem with that though. This creates a digital caste system where older teens get the cool new features, and the technology behind age estimation isn't foolproof. Research shows these systems can be less accurate for certain demographics and can be tricked. This actually incentivizes younger kids to lie about their age to get access, completely bypassing the very safety features designed to protect them. This creates a high-stakes showdown. Roblox is aggressively pushing forward with cutting-edge AI and new social features, while simultaneously defending itself against claims that its platform is fundamentally unsafe. You have to wonder about the timing. When a company is under this much legal and financial pressure, remember, its stock price took a hit after the lawsuit was announced new. Flashy features can be a powerful way to try and change the story. It's a classic PR move to pivot the conversation from safety problems to exciting innovation. It all begs the question, can a platform innovate its way out of a safety crisis, or are these new features just pouring fuel on the fire?
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.